Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Anup Kumar Kapoor from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today we are going to talk on module identification through somatometric and somatoscopic observations from the paper Forensic Anthropology. The objectives are: first, students will be able to take various measurements required for identification of individuals. Second, students will be able to locate landmarks required for the measurements. Third, students will be able to describe somatoscopic parameters to identify personality. And lastly, students will be able to describe techniques required for somatometric as well as somatoscopic observations. Identification by means of somatometric and somatoscopic techniques includes primarily observation of an individual's personality characteristics. Identification, or more specifically, personal identification, refers to determination of individuality of an individual based on certain characteristics. These characteristics are fixed, unaltered, and unique to every individual, and thus distinguish him or her from every other individual, which ultimately leads to their identification. Identification, that is, recognition of a person concerned, occupies relatively central place both in anthropological research, forensic examination, and criminal proceedings. Identification is necessary in civil courts in the case of impersonation in order to unlawfully secure property like life insurance payments, or to prolong a lapsed pension, or in case of disputed sex, and in criminal courts in connection with absconding soldiers and criminals, or person accused of assault, rape, murder, etc. Again, identification is very essential in case of fire, explosives, railway accidents, foul play, mass disasters, flood, earthquakes, war, etc. Thus, nowadays, it becomes crucial to authenticate identity due to security reasons. How a forensic anthropological establishes the identity of an individual. Forensic anthropologists employ various techniques or methods for identification. First is somatometric and somatoscopic techniques. Second is handwriting analysis. Third is fingerprint comparison. Then forensic genetics. Then we have molecular biology, in particular DNA. This particular module deals with the somatometric and somatoscopic techniques of identification. Somatometry. Somatometry is the systematic study of the measurements of various parts of the human body. Identification through somatometry is accomplished by a series of required bodily measurements. In 1879, Alphonse Bertillon, a French clerk and promoted to chief of the Identification Bureau of Paris, introduced a system of identification called Bertillon system of identification. It was a system of identifying people by their physical appearance. Various measurements were taken and recorded from various parts of the body. Also, Bertillon system includes observation of peculiar marking molds, scars, tattoos, birthmarks, occupation marks, acquired malformations, and personality characteristics such as color of hair, eyes, teeth, complexion, shape of nose, ears, chin, race, religion, and caste, sex, age, social status, etc. These observations are collectively referred to as somatoscopic observations. In the Bertillon system of identification, characteristics of the individual registered under three heads, that is, First, descriptive data such as color of hair, eyes, teeth, complexion, shape of nose, ears, chin, race, religion and caste, sex, age, social status. Second is bodily marks such as moles, scars, tattoo marks, birthmarks, occupation marks, acquired malformations. And the thirdly, bodily measurements, they are 11 in numbers. First is standing height, second sitting height, third the length and the breadth of the head, fourth the breadth of the face, fifth the length of the right ear, sixth the span of the outstretched arms, seventh the length of the left foot, eighth the length of the left middle finger, ninth the length of the left little finger, 10th the length of the left forearm, and 11th the length of the hand. Instrument used for spermatometric measurements. Anthropologists employ number of instruments for taking accurate measurements of the human body. Commonly used instruments are below. First, anthrometer rod. It is the most commonly used instrument for linear measurements, generally used to take height measurements as well as transverse breadths of the human body. Anthrometer rod is divided into four segments which when joined together form a rigid rod of 200 cm. Anthrometer rod contains fixed sleeve on top of the rod in which adjustable graduated crossbar passes. A rod also contains a movable sleeve with an adjustable graduated crossbar which is responsible for registering height measurements. Second is the rod compass. First segment of anthrometer rod is known as rod compass. Out of the four segments, the top segment with fixed sleeve acts as a rod compass. This is generally for measurement or heights from which are shorter in length and can be performed with only one segment of anthrometer rod. Third, spreading caliper. Spreading are made into two sizes, one of 25 cm for taking smaller measurements and another of 60 cm for taking the measurements on pelvis, that is called pelvimeter. Spreading caliper with both the sizes are of two kinds, one having blunt ends, the other sharp pointed ends. Calipers with blunt ends are used for taking measurements on the living, whereas with pointed ends for taking measurements on skeletons. Spreading caliper with whatever size consists of two long arms which are curved outwards and bounded at one end. A meter scale of 25 cm is fixed in one of the arms. The meter scale passes through a socket on the other arm. Next, sliding caliper. Sliding calipers are used for taking shorter breadths. It has 25 cm long straight bar. It has 12.5 cm long fixed arm at one end and also has a sliding sleeve with 12.5 cm long parallel to the fixed one. The arms are projected on both the sides of the scale to an equal distance. They end up in blunt end at one side and sharp pointed end at other side. The blunt ends are used for taking measurements on the living, whereas sharp pointed ends are used for taking measurements on skeletons. Next comes measuring tape. Measuring tape is generally used to measure girth or circumference of various parts of the body. It is made up of steel. It is graduated in millimeter and the width of the tape is about 1 centimeter. Techniques for spermatometric measurements. Measurements of the various parts of the body should be done with a minimum number of claws to minimize the errors and also to locate landmarks accurately. Subjects should be informed about the measurement which has to be taken. The subject should stand erect on a level floor against the wall with its back and hips touching the wall. Measurement should be taken on the subject standing barefoot. The feet should make an acute angle and heels must touch the walls. subject should be in a standard arm hanging position. That is, arms should hang freely on the sides of the subject and hands should touch thighs. The shoulders should not be raised upwards. Measurement should be taken from the right side of the subject because it is convenient to work with the instrument from right side. The head of the subject should be oriented in IR plane, that is tracheon and two orbitale must lie in same plane without any strain. The subject should not change his position when the measurements are being taken. Landmarks should be clearly located and marked with the skin marking pencil before taking measurements. Anthrometers should be kept vertically for all the vertical measurements, and readings should be taken at the upper border of the movable socket when the point of the crossbar touches the landmark. Measurements should be recorded carefully. Landmarks for smattometric measurements, they are very important in smattometric measurements as well as in anthropology. I will give you a brief account of the landmarks. In one of the international conference, all the anthropologists they sat together and decided that we should have uniformity in landmarks, and then it was agreed upon that you go to any part of the world, in any country, in any university, you give a particular name of the landmark, they will define it. Along with this landmark, the small abbreviation has been used. You will find in all the books, for example, Lacromian, it is represented by small a, Glabella, represented by small g. You will find all the landmarks referred by small names, alphabets, right? And then in case you want to study the glabella and opisthokinyon, glabella for G, opisthokinyon means OP, right? And in case you want to study any part of the skull or the head, the anthropologist will take the measurement from glabella to opisthokinyon. In the same way, these landmarks are situated on the bones of the human body, and then after that we have the muscles, fat, and that landmark come on the surface of the skin that represent the landmarks, right? Now, for example, acromion, glabella, urion, other things. Again, there are two landmarks. There are certain landmarks which are fixed, but there are certain landmarks which are not fixed. For example, urion, that is on the parietal eminences of the skull or the head. So, it is not a fix, it is to be taken wherever you get the maximum breadth on the skull or on the head. That is what we call is maximum maximum cranial breadth. So that is the urion to urion. So in this process, it should be very clear to you people that landmarks are some permanent landmarks on the bone, some are not permanent. You have to take some other judgment. Now, for example, I will give you the definition of acromion. That is A. It is the most laterally placed point on the lateral margin of the acromial process of scapula when the subject stands in a standard arm hanging position. It is located by palpating the scapular spine with the fingers. Then acropodion is AP. It is the most distally placed point on the tip of the longest toe, that is the first or the second toe, when the foot is stretched to the maximum. Then alare, AL. Now you see, here I am giving you the capital letters or small letters, but the landmark has to be in small letters. Throughout the world you will find it is in the small letters. Alare, small al, it is the most laterally placed point on the nasal wing and is determined at the time of measuring the nasal breadth. Cervical, again represented by small c, it is the point on the tip of the 7 cervical vertebra. To locate the landmark, subject should ask to bend forward so as to clearly distinguish between 7 cervical vertebra and first thoracic vertebra. Then chilion, CH, it is the most meeting point of upper and lower lateral margins of the lips, that is the corners of the mouth. Then dactylion, small da, it is the most distally placed point on the anterior margin of the middle finger when the subject is in standard arm hanging position. Now here I will again tell you two important points. When we take Frankfurt-Hutchinson plane, that is FH plane, in normal terminology we use the word FH, that is taken on the skull. When we are taking the sphygmometric measurements, then you have to orient the head in eye-ear plane. So landmarks are same on the skull, that is on the skull, and head eye-ear plane is on the living individual, that is on the head. Sphygmometric measurements generally used for identification. Various measurements on the human body is taken with anthropometric instruments. Instruments to be used depends on the measurements such as anthrometer for stature, sliding caliper for hand length, sliding caliper for maximum head breadth, measuring tape for circumference measurement, and so on. There are several measurements for identification in reference to sphygmometric measurements. It is very likely that two individuals can possess 5 similar measurements, but they will definitely differ in 30 measurements or more. All the measurements together define the individual characteristics of the person, which be unique. Now I will give you three important sphygmometric measurements which are used for identification. Above all these three, there are many sphygmometric measurements that can be used for identification. The first is height vertex or stature. It measures the vertical distance for vertex to floor when the subject is in standard arm hanging position. Second is sitting height vertex. It measures the straight distance from vertex. Here, the abbreviation is small, landmark is small v, to sitting surface of the subject when the subject is oriented in standard position with head oriented in eye-ear plane and vertebral column stretched to the maximum. Third is maximum head length, that is from glabella to posterior cranium. It measures the maximum straight distance from glabella to posterior cranium when the head is oriented in eye-ear plane. Sphygmometric indices generally used for identification. There are number of sphygmometric indices, but here I will give you few important sphygmometric indices. First is relative sitting height index. It is calculated by dividing sitting height vertex with height vertex and then multiplied by 100. Second is the cephalic index, maximum head breadth divided by maximum head length into 100. The third is morphological facial index, morphological facial height divided by biogeometric breadth into 100. The nasal index is equal to nasal breadth divided by nasal height into 100. Then relative biacromial breadth index, that is the biacromial breadth divided by height vertex into 100. Then relative bicristal breadth index, that is bicristal breadth divided by height vertex into 100. Then relative chest gut index, the chest gut divided by height vertex into 100. And finally hand index, that is hand breadth divided by hand length into 100. Then again the Saller, who was a German anthropologist or ethnologist, at that time he gave the classification, the values. For example, first I will take in the case of cephalic index. In the case of cephalic index, hypodolichocephalic in the male, it varies up to 70.9, whereas in the female it varies up to 71.9. If the skull is dolichocephalic, means The range of the reading of the head is 71 to 75.9, and in female it is 72.0 to 76.9. In this way, he also divided into mesocephalic, brachycephalic, hyperbrachycephalic, and brachycephalic. In the same way, all these indices have been given by Martin and Saller the range of variation to be studied in the population groups. Now we take smatoscopy. Smatoscopy may be referred to as the systematic study of the various parts of the body only through observation. As certain characteristics of human, that is, color of the skin, eye, ear, can only be described through observation and description and not applicable for metrical analysis. These characteristics are collectively referred to as smatoscopic characteristics. The smatoscopic perception of various parts of the body has a great utility in identification of individuals and also in comparing different morphological human groups or discriminating racial groups. Smatoscopic techniques. To efficiently facilitate smatoscopic observations, standard photographs of the subject by any standard camera may be taken. These photographs should maintain uniformity, that is, camera should be placed at equal distances from all the subjects. The background should also be similar. Enlargement of the photographs should be made of equal size for comparison. Subject should stand in standard arm hanging position. The head of the subject should be oriented in IR plane. Maximum characteristics are observed by keen observation of the individual rather than photographs and in proper daylight. Standard charts are employed for comparison of certain characteristics such as color of the skin, eye, and hair. Smatoscopic observations. First, we take skin color. Skin color must be observed at least at 4 to 5 sides of the body, as several factors such as sunlight, oil, soap, disease, malnutrition, thickness of the epidermis, as well as climate change affect the color of the skin. Hairs present on the body and wrinkles tend to make the color of the skin dark. Thus, skin color must be observed in daytime and with sufficient light. Skin color determining sites include forehead, cheeks, abdomen, above the navel, chest, shoulders, inner side of the upper arm, palm, inner side of the thigh, sole, etc. The color of the skin is determined by comparison with the standard charts. In the charts such as Luskin chart or Broca chart, the following shades may be noted: grayish black or blackish brown, dark brown or reddish brown, or brown or light brown, or olive brown, or yellowish white, or carmine white. Many a times, color photographs of the skin are taken with permission from the subject for efficient comparison. Nowadays, for smatoscopic observation of skin color, spectrophotometry is used. It is regarded as the best and modern method. This, however, can only be done in laboratory and it is expensive, which is the biggest of this method. Hair. Smatoscopic characteristics of hair includes its color, form, texture, and quantity of hair. First comes we take hair color. Hair color is determined by comparing the hair color with Fisher and Saller color chart of 30 different shades. In recording hair color, students should take or he should make sure that hair of the subject should not be artificially dyed, and in case it is, it should be mentioned. Hair color gets affected by use of hair oil, perfumes, aging. Special mention has to be made if any of these factors are recovered. The 30 shades of natural color can be categorized under three broad headings. First is blonde, that is ash blonde, then light blonde, then blonde, as per according to Fisher and Saller. Then we take the dark brown color, that is dark blonde, then brown and dark brown. Then we take red and reddish brown. Now we take hair form, broadly divided into three types. Lysotrichus, that is straight hair, straight or sleek. Then Xanthotrichus, that is wavy hair, flat waved or broad waved or narrow waved or curly. And then we have Ultrochacos, that is frizzly or widely knit or closely knit or peppercorn or spiral. So you can see from this diagram the different shades of hair. Then we have student can pluck one hair of the subject for differentiation and identification of the forms of the hair. Hair texture and quantity. Texture, coarse or medium or fine. Quantity, thin or medium or normal or thick or dense. Then we take hair whorl. Hair whorls are the center of distribution of the head hair. It can be single, double or multiple. It usually lies towards the top of the back of the head but can also occur in front above forehead. The direction of distribution of hair differs around the hair whorl. First is direction clockwise or anti-clockwise. Then we take facial hair. Facial hair is observed in the following area: eyebrows, concurrence, that is connected or separated, thickness, maybe scanty, medium and thick, and lateral extension. Then we have beard and mustache, that is thickness, normal, medium or thick. Then we have mid-phalangeal hair. Dorsal side of both the hands on the mid-digits is observed in proper light with the help of hand lens. If hairs are present, then denoted plus, and if negative, if absent. If 1 to 5 hair are present, then it is positive, and if 6 or more hair, then referred as plenty and denoted as double plus. Head form can be of the following types: elliptoid, pentagonoid, rhomboid, ovoid, siphonoid, spheroid, pear-shaped. Facial form can be of the following types: elliptical, oval, inverted oval, round, rectangular, quadrangular, rhomboid, trapezoid, inverted trapezoid, and pentagonal. Cheeks, prominent or medium or deep or shallow. Eyes, eye opening axis may be horizontal or slanting or oblique. Direction, outwards or inwards. Color of the iris, black or brown, or dark brown or light brown, or greenish or dark gray, or light gray, or dark blue or light blue, or crimson red. Then color of sclera, clear or spangled or yellow or dull. Then eye folds. Eye folds are two types: type 1 complete or medium or light, type 2 light equally arched or lateral descending, that is internal, or lateral ascending external, or narrow eyelids or upper eyelids. Then we have type 3 absent, then type 4 asymmetric. Nose. Spectroscopic observation of nose is performed on the basis of the following points. First is nasal root. Height above inner angle of eye may be high or medium or low. Then depth from glabella may be high or medium or deep. Then we have breadth, broad or medium, broad or narrow. Then shape, quite flat or medium or high or very high. Then nasal bridge, size, narrow or medium or broad. Shape from profile, concave or convex or vertical. Nasal bridge profile, continuous or wavy angular. Then tip of nose, projection, upwards and downwards. Profile of tip, rounded at point or fully rounded or flat. Then nasal wings, thickness, thick or medium or thin. Height, it may be high or low. Bulge, slightly flat or slight or strongly bulging. Then we have nasal septum, size, long or medium or short, breadth narrow or broad, direction upwards or downwards or horizontal, profile septum visible or not. Then we take nasal cavity. Shape and size very narrow or long oval or short oval or round or broad or very broad. Size and length small or big. Then we take surface of nasal cavity horizontal or projecting downwards or upwards. Lips, integumental upper lip. First is formed, straight or convex or concave. Member lip, thin or medium or thick or puffed up. Mentolabial fold, high or medium or broad. Then integumental lower lips form, may be straight or bulging downwards. Membrane lip, thin or medium or thick or puffed up. Then mentolabial fold, high, medium or broad. Then we take mouth, breadth of mouth, narrow or medium or broad. Gums, high or broad or folded. Tongue, length, large or medium or small. Tip, pointed or round. Thickness, thin or medium or thick. Teeth, missing and defective teeth should be noted. The dental formula: upper is M3, M2, M1, P2, P1, CI1, I1, I1, CI2, P1, P2, M1, M2, M3. Then in the lower M3, M2, M1, P2, P1, CI2, I1, I1, CI2, P1, P2, M1, M2, M3. As you know, M is molar, P stands for premolar, C for canines, I for incisors. Size of the individual teeth: very large or medium or small or very small. Dental arch: shape rounded or semi-elliptical or parabolic or semicircular or angular or moderately equal. Symmetry: asymmetrical or symmetrical. Then external ear: earlobe, present or absent. Size: long or medium or short. Shape: tongue shaped or triangular or square or arched. Thickness: thick or medium or thin. Attachment: free or attachment. Darwin's tubercle: present or absent. Antihelix curvature: strong or medium or weak. Antitragus: strong or weak or angularly developed. Helix and antihelix: equal to each other or narrower or broader. Tragus or antitragus: size small or weak or medium. Shape: long or round or knob shaped. Scaphoid: size broad or middle or narrow. Shape: flat or medium or deep. Neck: length long or medium or short. Then Adam's apple projection: marked or medial or slight. Then we take hand: size small or medium or long. Thickness: plumb or medium or narrow or thin. Shape: conical or spatulate or pointed or squarish. Fingers and fingernails. Fingers: we see the size small or medium or long. Thickness: plumb or medium or narrow or thin. Shape: conical or spatulate or quadrangular or drum shaped. Then we have fingernails. Size is broad or narrow or long. Shape: flat or arched or watch glass shaped. Grooves: long or queer. Foot: we see the size small or medium or long. Then thickness: plumb or medium or narrow or thin. Then we take toes and toenails. Fingers: size small or medium or long. Thickness: plumb or medium or narrow or thin. Shape: conical or spatulate or quadrangular or drum shaped. Then toe nails: size broad or narrow or long. Then shape: flat or arched or watch glass shaped. Grooves: long or queer. Let's summarize this module. Identification can be established through smattometric as well as smattoscopic observations. It is well known that our eyes identify by outer appearance of the individual, which can be defined as smattoscopic characteristics. It is very likely that two individuals can possess five similar measurements, but they will definitely differ in 30 measurements or more. All the measurements together define the individual characteristics of the person, which will be unique. Smattometry proves helpful in conditions where mutilated or fragmentary remains are recovered, but smattometric and smattoscopic observations are the foremost criteria which forensic anthropologists perform depending upon the recovered remains of the individual. Anthropologists derive definite techniques and landmarks to reveal the identity of the individuals. Smattometric analysis involves measurements of various parts of the body, and smattoscopic analysis involves the systematic study of various parts of the body only through observations. As certain characteristics of human can only be described through observation and description and are not applicable for metrical analysis, these are skin color, hair, head, face, cheeks, eyes, nose, teeth, mouth, external ear, lips, hand, fingers, nails, foot, toe, toenails, etc. Thank you.